Namaskar Mitro, welcome to Interesting Facts. Today, let me take you through the story of Ajatshatru in brief. Ajatshatru means a person without enemies. Ajatshatru reigned during 492 to 460 BC as a king of the Haryanka dynasty of Magadha in East India. He was the son of King Bimbisara and was a contemporary of both Mahavira and Gautama Buddha. He forcefully took over the kingdom of Magadha from his father, imprisoned him, and finally murdered him. He fought a war against Vajji, ruled by Lichchhavis, and conquered the republic of Vaishali. Ajatshatru followed policies of conquest and expansionism, just like China. He defeated his neighbors, including the king of Kosala, his brothers, when at odds with him, went to Kashi, which had been given to Bimbisara as dowry. This led to a war between Magadha and Kosala. Ajatshatru occupied Kashi and captured the smaller kingdoms. Magadha, under Ajatshatru, became the most powerful kingdom in North India. Ajatshatru is the inventor of two weapons used in war called Rath Musala, which is a scythe chariot, and a Mahashila Kantaka, a weapon for ejecting big stones on the enemy. Based on the correlation with dates in Mahavamsa, an epic poem written in Pali language and concluding that the Buddha died in 483 BC, Arthur Welland Basham, a noted historian, Indologist from London, and an author of a number of books, dated the accession of Ajatshatru to 491 BC. He estimates the first campaign of Ajatshatru to have taken place in 485 BC and his second campaign against Vajjis in 481 to 480 BC. The Samanaphala Sutta, a discourse that tells the story of King Ajatshatru, states that Ajatshatru visited the six teachers to hear their doctrines and at last visited Buddha, an event Basham estimated to have taken place in 491 BC. Ajatshatru was also known as Kunika. The ancient inscription in Government Museum Mathura refers to him as Vaidehi Putra. Ajatshatru Kunika. The story of Ajatshatru is also found in the Tripathi Buddhist scriptures and Jain Agamas, that is, Jain text. The account of Ajatshatru's birth is more or less similar in both traditions. According to Jainism, Ajatshatru was born to King Bimbisara and Queen Chelna. Buddhist tradition records Ajatshatru being born to Bimbisara and Kosala Devi. It is worthwhile to note that both the queens are called Vaidehi in both the traditions. According to Jain Nirayavalika Sutra, during her pregnancy, Queen Chelna had a strong desire to eat fried flesh of her husband's heart and drink liquor. Meanwhile, the very intelligent prince Abhyakumara, son of King Bimbisara and Queen Nanda, fried a wild fruit that resembled a heart and gave it to the queen. The queen ate it and later felt ashamed for having such a demonic desire, and she feared that the child might grow up and prove fatal for the family. Thus, after a few months of the child being born, the queen had him thrown out of the palace. When the child was lying near the garbage dump, a cock bit his little finger. King Bimbisara, learning about the child being thrown out, ran outside and picked up the child and put its bleeding little finger in his mouth and sucked it until it stopped bleeding, and continued this for days until it was healed. As the little finger of the child was sore, he was nicknamed Kunika, which means sore finger. Later he was named Ashoka Sanda. In the Buddhist Katha, the above story is almost the same, except that Kosala Devi desired to drink blood from Bimbisara's arm. The king obliged her, and later, when the child was thrown out near the garbage dump due to an infection, he got a boil on his little finger and the king sucked it. And once while sucking it, the boil burst inside the king's mouth. But due to affection for his child, he did not spit out the pus, rather swallowed it. Once Queen Padmavati, wife of Ajatshatru, was sitting in her balcony in the evening. She saw Halla and Vihala Kumaras with their wives sitting on Sechnaka elephant, where one of the wives was wearing the 18-fold divine necklace. Just then she heard one of the maidservants speaking from the garden below. The necklace belongs to Halla and Vihala Kumaras, not the king who enjoys the real pleasures of the kingdom. Queen Padmavati got upset. She thought, what's the use of the kingdom if I do not have the jewels in my possession? She shared her thought with Ajatshatru the same night and became excessively insistent in her demand. Ajatshatru at last agreed and sent a request to both his brothers to give the elephant and the necklace to him, which both his brothers denied, saying that these gifts were given by their dear father, so why should they part from them? Ajatshatru sent the request thrice, but got the same reply all three times. This greatly annoyed him, so he sent his men to arrest them. Meanwhile, Halla and Vihala Kumaras escaped to their maternal grandfather Chetaka, who was the king of the great kingdom of Vaishali. Ajatshatru sent notice thrice to Chetaka to surrender them, but was denied by Chetaka. This was enough for Ajatshatru. He called his half-brothers Kalakumaras, 10 Kalakumaras, those born to King Bimbisara, and 10 Kali queens, Kali, Sukali, Mahakali, etc., to merge their army with his, since it was well known to Ajatshatru that Vaishali had always been invincible in the past and he alone would not be able to defeat it. Each Kalakumara brought 3,000 horses, 3,000 elephants and 3,000 chariots and 30,000 infantrymen each. On the other hand, Chetaka invited his own allies, 9 Mallas, 9 Lichchhavis, and 18 kings of Kasi Kosala to fight his grandson, Ajatshatru. All these kings came with 3,000 horses, 3,000 elephants, and 3,000 chariots, and 30,000 infantrymen each. Thus, altogether, there were 57,000 elephants, 57,000 chariots, 57,000 horses, and 5,70,000 infantrymen. The war began. King Chetaka was a devout follower of Lord Mahavira and had a vow to not shoot more than one arrow per day in a war. And it was known to all that Chetaka's aim was perfect and his arrows were infallible. His first arrow killed one Kalakumara, commander of Ajatshatru. On the consecutive 9 days, the rest of the 9 Kalakumaras were killed by Chetaka. He was that fierce. As Ajatshatru was moving towards defeat, he practiced penance for 3 days and offered prayers to Sakrendra and Charmendra, Indra of various different heavens, who then helped him in the war. They protected him from the infallible arrow of Chetaka. The war became very severe, and by the divine influence of the Indras, even the pebbles, straws, leaves hurled by Ajatshatru's men were said to have fell like rocks on the army of Chetaka. This weapon was thus named Mahasila Kantaka, that is, the weapon through which more than 100,000 people died. Next, the Indras granted a huge automatically moving chariot with swinging spiked maces on each side, and it is said to have driven by Charmendra himself to Ajatshatru. This chariot was given to Ajatshatru, and Charmendra himself was driving the chariot. The chariot moved about in the battlefield, crushing lakhs of soldiers. This war chariot was named Ratha Musala. In this battle, Chetaka was finally defeated, but Chetaka and others immediately took shelter inside the city walls of Vaishali and closed the main gate. The walls around Vaishali were so strong that Ajatshatru was unable to break through them. Many days passed. Ajatshatru became furious and again prayed to Indra, but this time Indra refused to help him. But Ajatshatru was informed by an oracle of demigoddess, Vaishali can be conquered if Sramana monk Kulvalaka gets married to a courtesan. Ajatshatru inquired about the monk Kulvalaka and sent for the prostitute Magadha, disguised as a devout follower. The fallen woman attracted the monk towards herself, and finally the monk gave up his monkhood and married her. Later, Magadha, on Ajatshatru's orders, brainwashed Kulvalaka to enter Vaishali, disguised as an astrologer. With great difficulty, he did enter Vaishali and learned that the city was saved by a Chaitya, a shrine dedicated to Muni Suvrata. Kulvalaka then started telling people that this shrine is the reason why the city is suffering through a bad period. The people uprooted the shrine from its very foundation. Kulvalaka gave a signal and Ajatshatru proceeded as per prior arrangement. This was the last attack, and with this Vaishali was conquered by Ajatshatru. Sechanaka, the elephant, died after it fell in a pit with iron rods and the fire made by Ajatshatru's soldiers. Later, Hala and Vaishali Kumaras got initiated as monks in the holy order of Lord Mahavira. Chetaka courted Talekahana, fasted unto death. Ajatshatru not only conquered Vaishali but also Kasi Kosala. Ajatshatru was born to King Bimbisara and Queen Chelana, who was the daughter of Chetaka, the king of Vaishali, who was the brother of Queen Trishala, mother of Mahavira. Ajatshatru had 8 wives, and some say that he had many more, in thousands. But the principal consort was Princess Vijara. The city of Kashi was given to Bimbisara as dowry by Maha Kosala. After the murder of Bimbisara, Prasenajit took the city back. This resulted in a war between Ajatshatru and Prasenajit, in which Prasenajit was first defeated but became successful later. As Ajatshatru happened to be his nephew, his life was spared. In a peace treaty, Prasenajit married his daughter Vijara to him. Ajatshatru later had a son named Udayabhadra. It is estimated that Ajatshatru died around 460 BCE. Ajatshatru too, like his father, was brutally murdered by his own son Udayabhadra, who too was greedy of his kingdom. So as you sow, so you reap. Ajatshatru too was killed by his son Udayabhadra. He got what he had given to his father. Goodbye and see you soon.